Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley Lenise and I blend motivation with spirituality so that you can get the best benefit out of it. Today's video is on the higher self and the lower self and knowing the difference between them so that you have this in your spiritual toolkit and you can ascend that much quicker by being able to separate the two. Let's get started. So most people in the spiritual community know about the higher self. The higher self is the vision of you that when you shut your eyes and you drown out the noise of what everyone else thinks about you, what you truly feel you are, which does take some practice tapping into. The lower self, on the other hand, is that insecure, sad, deep-rooted part of you that is just doubtful, doesn't believe in yourself, doesn't think that you can do it. So those are the surface level intro definitions. The first thing we're going to talk about is the higher self, and then the second thing we're going to talk about is the lower self. Then we're going to talk about some differences, and by the end of this video it's going to be super clear for you to know how to differentiate the two. So the higher self is more than just the vision of you that you feel like you are, but maybe old layers and ideas are packed on top of it. The higher self is your soul. The higher self is your purpose. The higher self has a spiritual essence to it. The higher self is kind, compassionate, love-based. The higher self is selfless. It has empathy. It puts themselves first, but it also values and cares about the needs and hopes and goals and wants of others. The lower self, on the other hand, was not something that you were born with. The lower self is something that developed through childhood, and it started to become created at the first instance that you felt pain. The lower self is where all of our unprocessed trauma lives. The higher self is where all of our healing lives. The higher self is enlightened. So back to the lower self, because I see that I'm bouncing between the two already, but the lower self is something that you developed when you were young, and it's a defense mechanism to keep you protected. We needed the lower self because when we were hunting and gathering, it was more of a survival-based mode. And so we developed the lower self because the lower self keeps us protected. It keeps us alive. So we can't get rid of the lower self exactly because it jumps in when you need to put yourself first in situations where it's dire. However, though, the lower self is very lazy. The lower self is always trying to pull you out of what you need to do. The lower self is gluttonous. The lower self likes to indulge. The lower self is only focused on pleasure and that's it. The lower self loves the comfort zone. It's not concerned with evolving. It is also sometimes described as evil. Now, I don't necessarily know if I believe that, but this is the information that I've collected for you. The lower self is jealous. The lower self has hate. The lower self is fear-based. The lower self is lustful, it's prideful, and it's rooted in animalistic instincts. So the way that you tell the difference between the two is the higher self is love-based, the lower self is fear-based. So it's described that sometimes we can't tell the difference between the higher self and the lower self because the higher self cares about you and wants you to excel and has your best interest at heart, but the lower self jumps in survival situations. So what we see here is that at certain instances, our higher self and our lower self both seem like they're protecting us. The lower self is very good at manipulating you into thinking that it can be the higher self. So the way that you tell the difference is you think about, is this thought or is this act I'm about to do coming from a place of love or a place of fear? Is this act that I'm trying to do trying to push me to grow, or is it trying to keep me in the same mental framework, in the same mental loops? If it's helping you grow, it's the higher self. If it's keeping you in your same frame of mental loops, that's the lower self. Another question you can ask yourself is, do I feel like what I'm about to do aligns with my soul and aligns with my highest good? Or do I feel what I'm about to do aligns with habits habits that I formed during childhood and aligns with things that connect back to my insecurities. If it connects back to your insecurities, lower self. If it's your highest good, higher self. We can learn how to manage our lower self through shadow work. Shadow work is something I've talked about here before. I'll link my video on shadow work down below so you can watch that after this video. But shadow work is where you go into your trauma and you figure out what's really going on in there. And if you don't have self-love, that's a good indicator that it's your time right now to tap into your self-love journey. I've also talked about that here on the channel, so I'll link down below my self-love playlist. But your higher self is rooted in self-love, self-worth, self-efficacy, putting yourself first and being the main character, but a main character that cares about others, because that's also another video that I will make as well on main character energy. But getting to know your higher self and your lower self, like the two little creatures that sit on your shoulder, will help you with your spiritual transformation, because when you can identify the two, then you can actively, consciously choose which one you are going to navigate through. The lower self is definitely an interesting concept because I do feel like there are some appropriate aspects to the lower self, and it is a part of you, and it's not something that we can get rid of according to lower self research. The higher self, on the other hand, is the place of the flow state, how we tap into our passion and our purpose and our alignment with this universe. So that's all that I have for you guys today. Give this video a like so more people can find it. Subscribe to the channel if you like content like this. I have motivational and spiritual content. Thank you for watching this video all the way until the end. It really means a lot to me. I love you, and I'll see you in the next video.